within that list of constant variables, we have basically a subset which are property attributes. Okay? Property attributes for configuration variables. Okay, as if you think about your configuration variables, they have a lot of functionality. I'm going to give them a name and a value. I'm going to define length. I'm going to define data types. If it's an option list, I'm going to define groups to those. I also have descriptions within those option lists. Okay, we have the ability through an operator called the property operator, using these constant variables. It's going to pass a code to the property operator and let it know what attribute do you want to look up for this particular configuration variable. All right, let's run through just a couple of these. Is user modified? Okay, that is one of my constant variables that's going to be used with the property operator to look up a value. Okay, it's going to determine excuse me. It's going to determine if the configuration variable was either modified or seen by the user during the configuration session. And when I mean seen, it was actually displayed on a screen rule. Okay, this is going to be a true-false, so it's going to return either a Boolean true or Boolean false when it does the evaluation. Down at the bottom of the screen, I've given you an example, okay, of how this would work. I have an expression, O-color. I wanted to see the property of the constant variable is user modified. It's going to return a value. And I'm saying, okay, if it's equal to the constant Boolean true. All right, so I'm using a combination of those variables that we've discussed. Last modified by. Okay, we're going to use this particular constant variable with the property operator to determine, okay, who did the modification of this configuration variable. Okay, we're going to stick with O-color there. All right, O-color was shown on a screen. The user inputted a value. When I use my expression, it's going to return a value of 4, letting me know that, hey, this particular variable, color, was displayed on the screen, and the user inputted the value. Okay, whereas I have the others, 5 for external programs, 6 for previous configuration, 1 for default, 2 for dynamic, 3 for configuration variable rule. Okay, so if I return a 3, I'm knowing that that is a configuration variable rule. Set the value before the screen will execute it. All right, kind of to back up real quick, this is user modified, okay, in relationship to last modified by. Okay, is user modified is going to return true if the last modified by is either a 2 or a 4. So a dynamic default, which is the rapid options being passed into the configuration session, or a screen rule. Okay, of those 6 listed there, those are the 2 that are going to cause is user modified to be true. The other 4 would return a false result. Is variable available? Okay, we're going to use this to determine if the variable the variable value exists from a previously saved configuration. Okay, and it's just doing a lookup to the database, saying, hey, was this value saved to the database? And it's going to return a Boolean true or false. So you can see that in my expression again. I'm looking at O-color. I'm saying I want the property of the constant, is the variable available? It's going to return either, like I said, Boolean true, Boolean false. And I'm comparing that. Is that equal to my I constant Boolean true? Okay, I'm going to use this to determine how do my rules get executed. How do I set dynamic defaults? Previous value. This constant is going to be used with the property operator to retrieve the previously saved value of a particular configuration variable. Okay? If it finds a value, it's going to return it for processing. If it does not find a value, then it's going to return a null value. Okay, we can use this also along with that config mode and reconfig to determine how do I set dynamic defaults. How do I determine if the user in a reconfig changed the value versus what was placed originally. We also have another constant variable called previous state value. Okay, a little different from previous value. Previous state is going to actually keep track of the configuration variable as it's being changed during the configuration session. So let's say that we initialize O-color to red. I get to a screen rule that displays it. But the user decides they do not want red. They want a different color. We'll go with blue. They change it to blue. Okay? If after the screen rule executes for changing it to blue, if I have a statement that says O-color property constant previous state value, it's going to go do that lookup. And it's going to find that the previous state value of color after that screen rule executed was red. And it's going to return it. Maybe I need to flash an error message to the user saying, hey, you overrode the default. In doing that, it's going to increase the price. Like I said, these are ways to control the rule execution. To give warnings, to recalculate prices or dates. Now, if it finds the value, like bullet point 2 says, it's going to return it. If it doesn't find it, it'll return a null value. All right, kind of want to give you a real-life example here. This was an example. We got a call into the help desk. Client was needing to be able to determine how to set values for configuration variables. Okay, and this is going to work with my my reconfiguration. All right, if you look at that expression, I've got bullet points down at the bottom that tells how this works. First thing it's going to do, got a condition that's going to evaluate my variable fabric, determine if the previous saved or the previous state value, if both of those are equal to both or to no. All right, the second thing that it's going to do is going to evaluate fabric again to determine if the previous state value is null, not null, and if a portion of the variable dfab code is equal to a certain value. Once it does this evaluation, it's going to determine how to dynamically set or reset a variable. All right, between these system variables and these constants that we looked at here, you can open up a lot of the power inside the ByDesign configurator to keep track of variables as they're being changed, to determine what type configuration mode you're in, whether I'm in that interactive, implicit, I'm in a first-time config to a reconfig. You could also, we showed that we could look up the user IDs, group IDs, to determine how I might want to process my rules. All right, this was just a high overview of those system variables and those constant variables that we have within the ByDesign configurator.